FOS, back with you here at Radio Row at the Super Bowl in New Orleans. I'm Dan Roberts. I've got Guido from the Niners, and Zaileen is the CEO of the Super Bowl host committee next year when it is in Santa Clara. Let's start with you, Zaileen. What's going to be like bringing all of this that we see right now in New Orleans to the San Francisco area?
I mean, I can't wait. It's so exciting. It actually becomes really real when you come out the year before to just understand that it's coming to your market the next year. I mean, we have a huge market. We have 9 counties coming together to host a Super Bowl. Right after that, we host a World Cup, 6 matches of the World Cup. The only region to ever host a Super Bowl and a World Cup in the same calendar year. A lot going on in the Bay.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize just how long in advance a Super Bowl is planned. I mean, how many years between when you find out you're going to get it and then you assemble basically a full company?
That's
and
right.
Now finally it's 1 year to go, right?
Yeah, we won the bid in May of 2023. So what's that been, like 18 months, almost 2 years of just planning, winning, and now trying to figure out how you're going to operate a Super Bowl. And that's pretty typical and normal. And then, this is an event, the date happens. Like whether you like it or not, the Super Bowl is coming. And so your team starts to ramp and scale. You go from startup to kind of a mature organization. And then we do another event. So you do it again, and then you do it again, and you do it again.
Al, what's Levi Stadium going to look like here? What's it going to mean for you guys?
Entirely different than it was in Super Bowl 50. All new, brand new video boards, brand new club spaces, brand new concession stands. I give the York family a lot of credit, our ownership group. We put $250 million into that building in the first 10 years of operation. And so I'm excited to show it off for the world. I'm just hoping our team is actually playing in the Super Bowl in our venue.
I remember when that stadium opened, and at the time it was like all about the tech, and it's a teched out stadium, and you guys got a lot of attention around that. Now, more recently, we've gone into the Intuit Dome in LA, and there's kind of a constant one-upping that happens, right? How do you feel as you look around at kind of the stadium arms race, if you will? Even in women's sports in the WNBA, we've written a lot at FOS about all the teams racing to have new facilities and have the highest tech and the best ambiance possible for everyone.
I think first and foremost, you have to remind yourself that the hero feature is what's happening on the field, the diamond, the ice, etc. And there's no doubt that art and venues can enhance that experience, but that has to be paramount. But we were talking about this yesterday. There are $20 billion of infrastructure projects planned between now and 2031 in just the National Football League. There's obviously a lot of projects in MLB. You mentioned NWSL, expansion, new buildings, and we're all sort of striving for what's the future of fan experience. But, we spend a lot of time around will people be on their phones? Will they look at scoreboards? The truth of the matter is these athletes are so good that when the game's being played, everyone's still watching. It's when the game's not on. That's when they're literally uploading content. Like you guys are covering it really well. And the venue itself just needs to be able to handle that. And fans, they'll embrace anything and as long as the game itself is great.
Zaileen, you talked about World Cup. I mean, we're basically looking at a Santa Clara takeover, right? A full-on takeover here. What are kind of the burdens and kind of responsibilities in that? We ran a big story to open and set the scene for this week all about the safety precautions, especially here in New Orleans, what happened, on New Year's and extra heightened security. What else comes into it with knowing just how many sports events are going to be in this one area?
Yeah, I mean, for us, some of this is an opportunity, right? When you host the Super Bowl and then you host a World Cup, there's a lot of learnings that you have from one and best practices you have from one that you just pull right into the other. And so we look at that as almost efficiencies in scale to have both events in 1 year. There's things that we have to plan for, right? It's not a walkable city. You're not going to walk from San Francisco to Santa Clara. You shouldn't. That's not something you should do. And there's 27 transportation agencies in the Bay Area. So for us, a lot of work happening on how you connect people from county to county, make sure that ingress and egress from wherever you are living during that week, you're able to get to the game if you're going.
There are definitely people probably who don't understand that the Niners Stadium is not in San Francisco. Remember the cold weather Super Bowl in New York? And, it really is in New York. It's out in Jersey.
Yeah,
right?
and that's actually a good point. A lot of people ask us about, transportation and the stadium being far from San Francisco, but it's actually not just San Francisco or the Bay Area that has to deal with it, right? Inglewood is a stadium far away from LA. Foxborough is far, it actually happens in a lot.
Yeah, Gillette is not in Boston, my friends.
That's right. So it happens a lot in a lot of NFL markets. And so the NFL is really well versed in how to deal with that. We take those learnings. The Niners have a fan base that runs throughout the Bay Area. And so this is stuff that we actually are already practicing and building into our plan.
Al, while we have you, got to ask about the team and the season. Not back in the Super Bowl, as you said. You hope that next year the Niners are actually in it. Which I forget. Has it happened that the host team is actually in it? Or it's never happened. It's only happened once.
Tampa Bay, LA. So Tampa Bay with the Bucks during the COVID year. I think Tom won during that year.
Right, and the COVID year. It's a little bit of an asterisk.
And then LA with Matthew Stafford.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. How do you feel about the season that was?
I mean, bummed, of course, right? I mean, we've had such a great run. We've been in 4 of the last 6 NFC title games. Of course, 2 Super Bowls. You know, we've fallen at the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs, who, of course,
who hasn't?
That's it. They're a tough team to play. A lot of injuries on the field. A lot of things not go our way, and so we're looking forward to getting back. The guys are hungry. They know what it feels like to be there. We got a great returning roster. Of course, there's a lot of decisions that need to go into any offseason, but I feel really good about the infrastructure of our team. Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, all the players that we have. It was fun to see Fred walking around and all the, frankly, like Pro Bowl players we have. We feel like we can get right back there.
And the Brock Purdy situation, any update on that?
Look, I would say,
and you're not the player guy.
All trust in John and Kyle. Brock's been awesome for us in the time that he's been here. There's no questions he's performed on the field, and as important, performed off the field. He's a great human being. John and Kyle will figure out what's next for him and for us, but I look forward to hearing from them around what we're going to do.
Last one for you, Al. As we talk to players around Radio Row and also to executives from the NFL's expansion has been a huge conversation in 2 key ways. One, looking at another regular season game, an 18th game, have to figure that out with the NFLPA. And then, of course, expansion abroad, more international games than ever. Talk to me a little bit about that effort and how the NFL is kind of constantly trying to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I think, we're certainly excited about the growth that we've had in North America. I mean, you cover it, all the media platforms that are now covering the National Football League. I mean, Zaileen and I were talking about this, the difference between Super Bowl 50 and 60, not just even in the footprint, but frankly, the media partners. You know, we didn't have Google as a media partner in the National Football League through YouTube at that time. We didn't have Netflix buying a Christmas Day game. And so, we didn't have the what's about to happen with AI and how it's going to impact sports. And so I think Roger said it well. There's a lot to be discussed around 18-2. And the Global Markets Program was like the NFL's first, in my opinion, dipping their toe in the water and allowing the 32 franchises to understand their IP rights. And this isn't new. I think you guys do a great job covering all sports. And if you think about what the Premier League's been able to do here in the US, what the NBA's been able to do with their jersey patch and how those digital rights now expand across the globe. Zaileen touched on it. We're 1 or 2 as far as fan base in Mexico, us and the Cowboys as far as global footprint. We own Leeds United, through the 49ers. So in the Premier League and having a footprint in London. And I think the NFL, they've talked about this. The one area outside of the event-based strategy, we haven't really built a global enterprise. And I think to be able to do that, we have to, 1, play more events there. 2, we have to have the 32 franchises actually invest in those markets. And then the third question is and this is for Roger, do we ever take the biggest game that we have and not host it here in the U.S.? And 18-2, we'll see what happens on that front. But to me, there's no question that our game is as best as it's ever been, in my opinion, given the stars of our game, given the media coverage, and frankly now, given how many markets in the world have their eyeballs on us.
You like the idea of a Super Bowl outside the U.S.?
Listen, I think it's really interesting, and I understand all the issues with it around the performance side and how far it might have to go. And that is what I think is key to all of this. It's no different than 18-2, which is let's make sure the game stays how good it is, right? That it has to be first and foremost, because I think the parity in the NFL, right? The margin of victory is so tight. That's what keeps people tuning in. And so that has to be number 1. And if it just so happens that we can figure out schedule-wise or where we can play somewhere else and the fan bases really want it, well, then why not? Got it. Well, good luck. We'll be there in a year, I guess 1 year from now, right?
Go.
Yep.
We'll talk again on Radio Row. If you're doing it at that time, maybe it'll be we're a little busy because in a few days we're hosting. But Zaileen and Al, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
More coming soon from Radio Row from Front Office Sports.